Hello, welcome to the Future Anthropology podcast. I'm David Driscoll.
My name's Steve.
And I'm Arnel.
And I'm David, since we're not using last names. So, Future Anthropology, we're interested in the concept of coexistence and co-evolution with technology and humanity together, which we feel like is a very, very important topic now and especially in the coming few years. So I have a background in anthropology. So I studied a bit about human evolution and human culture and the way that people understand themselves and their communities. And then, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I come from the Eastern spirituality enlightenment tradition. I've been studying this for my lifetime, so I see a lot of relevance in the teaching. So that's where I'm from.
And my background, I used to work at Intel for a while, and currently I'm a student at the Institute of Brain Education, mastering in Earth Management.
Great. So today we want to talk about something that is very interesting to me, and then I think a lot of people are approaching from different angles, and it's the concept of our existence beyond the body, or how this is changing as technology and medicine and information evolve, the limits of living beyond the physical body, how that's changing and the implications of that and the challenges that it might bring. So first question is, how close are we to actually being able to exist beyond this physical body in a significant, real sense? Because to me, it still seems kind of like science fiction. So why should we think that that's coming fairly soon?
I think that if we use some prediction or expectation from other experts, I would like to use the Ray Kurzweil's prediction about the immortality. I think that's one of the most boldest prediction in the history of technology. According to him, he said humanity will reach immortality by 2030, only 5 years from now.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
So what immortality, what kind of things might that mean? Like medicine is so good that we live forever, or we have a robot body?
I believe the closest possibility is because we know that the maybe combination of the biotech and then robotics, because the biotech, including, for example, cloning, so you can replicate your body and then replace your organs and tissues and body parts with that. Or, I mean, we see a lot of the possibility of replacing body parts of the machine body. So by combining this, that's one possibility. What do you think?
So could it also be that, we have robots, say like surrogates or avatars, and you can transplant your consciousness into that body? Like totally leave your physical human body and upload your consciousness into a robot.
I mean, Elon Musk is talking about everybody has a personal assistant robot. So it's kind of taking that technology further.
Yeah, like you become that robot.
There's a lot of sci-fi. You made me think of a movie when you talk about like replacement parts standing by. Have you seen The Island? With Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor? It's exactly that topic. The rich have duplicate clones that are grown and sequestered in some secret area, and they don't know that they're duplicates. And then when the rich people need an organ transplant, that clone is... So like a lot of sci-fi, it's kind of pessimistic and dark, but a very interesting idea, at least.
I think another the most promising technology, one of the most promising technologies is the brain mapping. So which means when we complete the brain mapping, digitize the pattern of the network of brains, and then put it into in a digital form or replicate it mechanically, which means we can replicate all the thoughts and memories that we have in our mind in a different form. So when we have the digitalized mind, which means we can put it into anything. It doesn't need to be specifically in a organic or mechanical form. We can put it into a computer, or it can exist in just a virtual space. So which means we can be, I would say, free from forms.
Wow. So to me, that sounds like we'll make a really good copy of you, and then it'll be able to sound like you and respond the way that you would. But to me, that's not me. Like when my body dies, I'm still gone, and then you just have something that looks like me.
Right. And then what about your soul? Like, what about,
Like the
you
feeling.
know,
Like, do I feel like I'm now there? Or,
is it
that's,
just like a really good copy of me?
and other people think it looks like me, but for me, it's still, I'm done when that
Yeah.
body is done.
I believe that's when I talk about immortality, I think technology is not the issue. I think the more important thing is our emotional mental resistance to that. And I think most of that comes from our identifying ourselves with our body, or our attachment to our body.
Or emotions.
Yeah, emotion, because that emotion, when we analyze that, actually, that's a kind of the vital or the hormonal response to our thoughts.
So it's part of having a
Emotions.
body.
Yeah, that has very tight, close tie with our physical body. So I think that leads to naturally the question that, is my body me?
Yeah. Is my body me? So do you think most people feel like their body is them? And then what does that mean? Or if it's not, what does that mean?
Well, I think, if you die, your body's dead, you no longer exist, right? That's what some people believe. And then some people believe that you move on to like an afterlife. So there's an idea that you can exist beyond your body in some kind of spiritual world.
I have a suggestion. Even I know that there are people who have a very spiritual mindset, orientation, and they believe their continuous existence beyond their physical body. But even those people, most of people, if I do some experiment like this, can you help me?
Sure,
So
yeah.
if I bring my hands to Anel and I ask, "Am I touching you?
No,
Am I touching you?
no,
Am I touching you?
no.
Am I touching you?"
Yes.
So which means, when based on this, where do you think, where do you end, and where does the rest of the world begin?
In this case, my physical body. As soon as you touch my hand or my body, that's where I end.
So we're real good at analyzing where the limits of our physical body are.
So even without being conscious of it, we habitually believe that this is my boundary. My body is me. So,
Right.
because it's so deeply rooted in our mind. Even when we believe we understand our spiritual dimension, we go back to so easily to this kind of the frame and mindset that my body is me.
Yeah, evolutionarily, it makes sense. Protect this body, be very aware of what might endanger it and what the limits of it are, what's good for it. Some people say that's the root of the ego. The ego is there to protect this physical life. And so it's very strong, like that's me. And then we talk about also oneness consciousness. Like if you go deeper, there's a sense of being connected to other people. But yeah, I think most people would be, it's kind of a no-brainer that my body is like where I exist and your body is where you exist, and then they're separate. They're different. So am I my body? No, I think in the Western tradition, we look at things like psychology and then physical anatomy. And there's kind of a split between the two. But I know in the Eastern tradition, those two are a little bit more interwoven, the influence of the one on the other.
It's that's we in Eastern tradition, if we put everything into one word, it can be unity or oneness or Tao. But actually, the meaning of that oneness is not actually doesn't refer to only physical dimension. So even from the very start, it's not physical. It means accepting our true identity, something beyond our body, beyond the physical dimension. So, but even from Western point of view, maybe if you look at, let's say, if you wear infrared glass, then how would you look? I mean, I believe you saw some images like that. It's like a orangey. There's no boundary,
Right.
Like
Okay.
then, if you change your glasses, let's say if you wear ultraviolet glasses that can see electromagnetic waves, and how would you look? Then your electromagnetic waves will be connected with the entire universe. But the important thing is these are not illusion. They are not optical illusion. The way we see the things is only based on the very narrow frame of the visible light.
That's
Right.
true. And I mean, if you go into the like quantum space and you look very closely, very small, atoms don't really touch each other. And there's actually a lot of space in between the nucleus and even the electrons if you get really, really fine into it. So actually, there's a lot of space, even though there is what feels like
solid.
a solid limit to where I begin and end.
So I want to ask you more about the concept of the emotional resistance to not having a body. Because I know, the basic desires, security, food, sex, and then some of the emotional, like basic desires, recognition, uh, uh, obtaining things. A lot of those are just rooted in having a body. And so without that, like there's show, I remember there was a movie, I think it's a Japanese movie, about people in the afterlife and the different way, like they're in a holding pattern where they're entering the afterlife and how they react to no longer having a body. And for a lot of them, they want to keep enjoying those physical sensations and desires even when they no longer have a body. And then I just watched the show Upload, some episodes of that. And that's one of the things that they've programmed into this digital afterlife, is that you're going to be able to keep enjoying the physical kind of existence even when you're dead. So obviously there's a desire for that, but what are the challenges? Like what do you think we're afraid of or resisting about not having a body and having some sort of existence that way?
I think that's not a personal limitation. It's because we evolve, we develop that kind of what the way we perceive things and the way we respond to that, not in our personal history, but throughout the evolutionary history, billions of years. So I don't think we can change that just overnight. But my imagination about the change is, we are not going to accept that kind of transition after everybody is mentally, spiritually ready. I believe the change will happen maybe the other way.
It's going to come and we're going to have to deal
and then
with it.
we deal with it. Then we'll see how fragile, how groundless, how illusory the perception that we have been living by. So I think that's actually in the history of technology, a lot of changes happen that way, not the other way.
We're not really ready for them, but they're
For example, mobile phone didn't come out when everybody
we had no idea what these were going to do to us.
and this came first, and people adapt to that. Then we begin to understand the limitation of the traditional technologies and what the virtual space means, what the digitizing things means, those kind of things. So I believe the same thing can happen to our identification with the body, our expanded self, those kind of things.
How would you feel existing beyond the body? What do you think would be different?
I think actually, I've asked a lot of people this question. Like, in the future, they predict we're going to have robot bodies that you can transfer your consciousness into and you can be immortal. Or you can continue in your human body. And most people that I ask about this, they'll say, no, I'm good with my body. I'll just keep this as long as I can. And then, whoever wants to do that and transfer their consciousness into a robot body, they can do that. I feel like when that change comes, I'll probably be one of the people that does that. I'm already half a robot anyways, like my emotions are very, very like stable. There's not much change to me becoming a robot. So I feel like it'll happen for me, but
He's very proud of it. He's ready. He's practicing.
I feel like this is the future. But I also feel like people underestimate how much that future is gonna change who they become because, like these cell phones, like the idea that the government and that these businesses are tracking you everywhere you go and you're sharing your most intimate thoughts with the whole world. If you told somebody about this 10, 15 years ago, they'd think you're crazy. There's no way I'm gonna give up that much privacy.
Right.
However, we all willingly choose to have our phones around us and we feel empty when we don't have it. So like this idea that, robot bodies are going to exist and immortality is going to exist, I feel like a lot of people underestimate how much they'll actually opt into doing those kinds of things. Because once people do it and more people do it and it becomes more useful,
becomes the norm.
yeah, then naturally the rest of society falls into it. Yeah.
I read a story recently where in the future, it's very common when people reach like the end of their life, they transfer into a robot body. And then the cost of doing that is so much that they're like contracted to work for like 100 years.
Yeah.
But they get to live for like 1,000 years. So 100 years working is worth it for them.
Yeah.
But then there's some people that almost like religiously, they call themselves like originals, and they are willing to replace body parts, but they must keep at least like 40% of their original body because it's like a spiritual belief, or that's their tenet. That's what they hold to.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a dark story.
I think because we are so much in a binary way of thinking, so in order to get something, we have to lose something. So, and then the fear of losing something that we are so attached to, something that we are so feel comfortable about. So definitely the first thing about that is our physical body. But I think the more important part of this change is currently existing in our body is the only choice that we have. But the change of this is not losing this body and becoming robots. It's not like that. I think the more important thing is staying in our physical body can be just one of the lot of choices available. I think that by doing that, actually, it really expands our freedom to be, and also create. One example, now we are trying to exploring, we are trying to go beyond the planetary boundary, the possibility like living in the, building a colony in Mars, for example. But
which sounds so difficult.
So difficult with this physical body.
Right. True. Yeah.
But if we are open to different ways of being, then taking different forms, then I think a lot of new possibilities will open to us.
That when we started talking about this, actually like a month or two ago, more actively, that was one of the most interesting things to me, is the potential for exploration, travel, existing in different environments. One of the things that's always seemed kind of far-fetched to me is, are we ever going to get to the point where we can actually travel in the universe? And just hearing how hard it is to keep people alive on the International Space Station, like one person alive for 100 days, how many resources and how many staff members on the ground? It's not going to happen, especially with our current situation. So that's really interesting, is the fact that we might be able to actually do these things that science fiction is always imagining that we could do, because otherwise. But the other thing that comes up is when you start talking about this, in the beginning especially, this is going to be very expensive. I imagine only the super rich. And also, like a lot of technology now, has the potential to be controlled and even abused for the benefit of an elite group. So, I mean, that's where a lot of like dystopian sci-fi comes from. So how do you guys think we can get there without it just becoming this corporate capitalist nightmare? where everything is under control of a corporation. Does that make sense? Like, is
Oh yeah,
is
yeah,
that a
totally.
legitimate fear?
Yeah, I think everybody has that kind of vision, like pessimistic vision of the future, that like the way things are going right now are the way things are going to happen in the future. So if right now corporations and greed are running things, of course, people's imagination of the future is going to be, it's just going to be that times 100 because we're going to have the technology. But I really feel like the technology is not the problem. The technology is just a tool. We can use it for good and bad. What really matters is the consciousness of the people using that tool. So the root cause of it is really the consciousness. How do we raise the consciousness of the users of this technology, and especially the elite, the ones in power?
Do you think that with the changes in technology over the past 10, 20 years, like huge changes, especially social media, online, and now AI, do you think we are actually moving in that direction already? The consciousness is being raised, is rising, or are we still kind of stuck? And then we need to find something to change that. Or is it already moving in that direction, hopefully?
I think all different possibilities exist at the same time. It's not all one way or the other. And our everyday choices, every single thought that we entertain will have an impact on that. So, yeah, I think that that's it's a very legitimate concern about the dystopian control system, or what people call global governance, for example. All those possibilities are real, but I think there are we cannot underestimate the power that we have. One, the technology, if the mindset changes happen along with the technology, for example, if you are open to different ways of being, not being stuck in this physical body. For example, uh, when some people try to enslave others or build us a control system, they use a kind of threat, right? That if you look into break down those kind of threat, no matter what they say, at the bottom line is I will kill you. That's the actual essence. I will stop your being. That's whether whether it comes from physical or financial or social, any aspect. If you look into that, that's the essence. But when we are open to a different ways of being, and also when those options are available, and we are not
when they're
stuck
available.
when we are not stuck in this only physical form, then I believe people will have more power to choose or to say no.
It's harder to threaten us or back us into a corner if we have the option. Like, oh yeah, even if you kill my body, I can exist somewhere else.
Sure. So I think that's even not only technology, just having that mindset is very important part of the spiritual preparation for the change.
I can envision a group of people very strongly disliking this kind of technology and change and culture that comes with it, which I think is just normal, natural with any kind of evolution and change in culture. So kind of wrapping things up, we don't know exactly how this is going to go. We don't know exactly when it's going to arrive, but I do agree with you. I think huge changes are coming. And then you also made me think that a lot of progress and change comes from crisis and unavoidable crisis. When we no longer have a choice, we have to adapt. And that also seems very likely because of the environment, because of the social order. So how can we kind of get ready? What are the most important things, do you guys think, in these coming few years? If it's 2030, 2035, it's not much time left. So what can we do now to get ready for these shifts?
Me personally, I think one of the important things is to have a hopeful, optimistic mind. Like you were saying earlier, like believe in the potential of humans to overcome the challenges that are in front of them. This is going to be a huge challenge, huge shift for everybody on the planet when this technology starts to arrive. And like you said, we don't know what it's going to cause. We don't know how it's going to arrive. We don't know what it's going to look like. But having the kind of mind that trust in yourself, trust in humanity, that we can overcome this and we can find a way to coexist with this technology and with each other and with nature. I think that kind of even just mindset and belief is very important.
And then maybe next time, I think that's a good point. Reminds me also the concept of coexistence and the concept of coevolution. Maybe next time we can dig into a little bit more. I think that's really interesting. So hopeful and then trust there's something in humanity that wants to overcome and find a way to adapt.
I mean, that's why we love all the movies and the heroes that we love, is because it's showing us and reflecting us that spirit inside of us that we all know that we have. And we want to identify with that. We want to be the hero in our movie.
Yeah, sometimes we actually want to be challenged in order to bring that out.
Yeah.
We welcome the challenge. I think actually, just personally, I think a lot of people are attracted to the idea of collapse and crisis, and they love these apocalyptic movies because it gives that sense of purpose and then bringing out your 100% willingness.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do we need?
When we talk about the technologies and the new technologies and technological advancement, a lot of people see it from, I believe more people see it from concern and fear instead of expectation or hope, because the ground for that is most people say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to use those technologies.
And you said kind of binary, black or white. Is it good or is it bad? Is it better or worse?
Mm-hmm. So I believe, but what will lead the change is not, I believe the technology will become like the way we become able to use the PCs or mobile phone, anybody. So I think the technology will be available for most of us. So the more important thing than the just knowledge in science and technology, I think the more important thing is the spirit, the open mind, and the open to the all different possibilities, and the spirit that can make choices instead of forcing ourselves into just one way or the other. So having that mind, believing the power of our spirit, I think that when we have that kind of mindset, hero spirit, I would say, when people have that mindset, I think that will be the power to fight against any attempt to build kind of the slavery or control or dystopian system. So I would suggest having more like being open to new possibility, relax, and see it as a kind of fun, like doing kids and doing experiment,
Little adventure.
yeah, they're really adventurous. Why not? And that kind of thing, I would recommend that kind of mindset to everybody.
Yeah. And then you said being open to living in different ways, existing in different ways, which a lot of people are craving.
Yeah.
They take drugs, they go on vacations, they do extreme sports because they want to get out of the typical way. So that may be something that we all experience a lot more of.
Yeah, just one step further.
Yeah. One step further. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed our discussion today. We'll be back with more topics and more discussion related to coexistence and coevolution. So this is Future Anthropology. If you enjoyed, hit like and subscribe. See you next time.